Bruno and B.O.B. It's Bobby Brackus. It's Nothing on You. By the way, Bruno's got a new single out. We'll play it for you later on here. Right now we're at 40 degrees on your 420. It's a Tuesday morning, obviously, and it's time for a weekly chat that we call Good Policies, where Mike Barrett joins us from Barrett Insurance Agency. Hi, Mike.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to the weekend already because we get snow between now and then yet again. Anyways.
Yeah, my little snow lover 7-year-old is now officially over the snow.
Oh, he's finally had it?
He's had it.
Ethan, you've finally hit near adulthood. Oh, gosh.
He's getting older.
Yes,
the older
he
you
is.
get, the more you hate the snow, I guess, huh?
Yeah, Mike, we had a great chat last week here. This is, from what I've seen, and I used to be a car salesman years ago, this is traditionally the time of year that folks decide to get rid of their clunkers and stuff like that, or they start reconsidering how much money they're investing in their current vehicle. Are there things in your automotive insurance policy that can cause you some issues, maybe some hang-ups?
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about, and we've kind of touched on in the past, but I think it's worthy to bring again, and that's because we continuously see companies trying to properly address exposures that may fall outside of the comfort level of what a personal auto policy is intended for. And I'm talking about things like delivery of food. So if you're delivering for a pizza place or a restaurant, do you know if you're covered? Do you know that if you're that most likely you're not, because you're using the vehicle for a business purpose, which means you may want to consider a commercial auto policy, because rather than just using a vehicle to drive for pleasure use or back and forth to work, now you're using it for something much more, and you could run into some potential issues if, God forbid, an accident was to occur while you're on the job. Same thing can happen. We don't see this much around here, Jeff, but that doesn't mean we don't see it at all. You think about the things like Uber and Lyft and all those ride-sharing programs. Companies have different ways of addressing that. The company that I've insured with, I just got my policy renewal recently, and they did an advisory notice to all the policyholders. And then what it does, it basically talks about how public or livery conveyance exclusion revision includes ride-sharing. So livery is a taxi service, and that's always been something that's excluded on auto policies because, again, you're using your vehicle for the purpose of business. And, companies are constantly evolving. They're constantly improving and trying to address things more appropriately, but they're also trying to make sure that they're covering their bases. And this particular advisory that I got, it just goes on to provide some clarification where, look, if you're using your vehicle for normal use, but you also do the ride sharing, know that you are probably going to be running into some exclusions if something happens while you are doing the ride sharing in your vehicle. That's not to say you wouldn't find coverage. There are some companies out there that have partnered up with some of these companies, like the DoorDashes of the world and the Ubers and the Lyfts, that actually provide coverage because they know that those particular companies have a broad liability that would be above and beyond you while you are working on their behalf, so that they would actually be there to help you in the event of coverage being triggered while you are using your vehicle for the purpose of facilitating their needs, whereas your auto policy would kick back in as primary when you're just using it for your own use.
Mike, if I could jump in here. Folks with us, Mike Barrett from Barrett Insurance Agency, Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. Mike, we've had chats with representatives from Rural Community Transportation, and they do... They have where someone like myself, okay, because I've been venturing to try and find a way to bring some supplemental income in, right?
Sure.
Where someone like me could do a similar thing like you're talking about with deliveries. Like go to Mr. and Mrs. Jones' house and grab their grocery list and go pick up their groceries for them, or take them to their doctor's appointments and stuff like that. So the reason I mention this is things that are these two things here that I'm about to ask you, what would kind of raise a red flag with some insurance carriers. I mean, obviously, while you're doing this, you're going to be driving more mileage, right?
Right.
And two, you're going to have passengers more frequently. Is that why there's a difference between personal and business?
Yes, it definitely plays a role. Also, the fact that you're receiving compensation, which now means you're using it for a business purpose, that could be a big thing as well. When you're transporting people, you're adding the additional liability exposure. If, God forbid, if you got into an accident with people who are compensating you for being in your vehicle, that adds a whole new level and layer of liability exposure to you and to the company that insures you. So that's certainly why it's of interest. Now, it's a great thing where you're talking about the rural community transportation. A lot of what they have to offer, a lot of what people do for them is it's called more or less a volunteer type of driving, where maybe they're getting a gas reimbursement, that type of thing.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say that is the stipulation. Folks can volunteer for it, and they get a mileage reimbursement for that. So is this then more similar to like the taxi example that you were using?
So when you're doing it a volunteer and based on a reimbursement of gas, I think you probably could get away with it with most companies. But here's the thing. Never ask for forgiveness. Always ask for permission. Because if you're asking for forgiveness, you're hoping that a claim is covered where it may not be, if you know what I mean. So you want to make sure you're ahead of the curve and that you're doing your due diligence ahead of time. And sometimes I had a client the other day, we were talking, and it was funny. They go, gosh, sometimes being honest just gets you in trouble. It was certainly in jest that they said that. They didn't really mean it. But, sometimes the more we talk, the more of the onion we peel away, the more we start to see things that may not be appropriately covered by a certain policy and may want to make us look another way. So, say, for example, something as simple as you have a nice truck and you got a plow on it, and you're thinking, I'm going to go out and get some extra money and plow a couple of driveways every winter. Why not? You're not going to be a big professional operation. You're not plowing the big grocery store lots or anything, but maybe you're just plowing a handful of residential lots for people getting paid. Even that can become a problem if you just have a personal auto policy. So these are all things that as your use of your vehicle changes, it's always good to check ahead.
Well, and as you mentioned, too, and our time running short here, but if the actual use of your vehicle changes we use the mileage reference, right? If it goes down where you're not traveling as much, you definitely want to contact your insurance agent, too, because you could be saving some money.
Right. You could be leaving money on the table. Let's say some companies, they say you either you drive back and forth to work or you don't. They don't have a mileage stipulation, but more companies say, hey, here's a rate if you drive under 15 miles or less, and here's the rate if you drive over 15 miles. Well, let's say you took a job that had you driving a longer distance, and now you are driving closer or not driving at all with the pandemic, you're working from home. There's opportunities there that you may be leaving a little bit of money on the table. So, always a good idea to dot the I's and cross the T's on those things to make sure it's appropriate for you.
Well, like you said, don't ask for forgiveness, ask for permission. And if folks want to ask you questions, Mike, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. You can always give us a call, 748-5224. This week with school break, we're rotating who's in, who's out. So yesterday was my day in the office, and Jen was home with the boy. My home day is today, so Dad's home with the kid today, and Jen's in the office at 748-5224. You can find us on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. We're also online at BarrettAgency.com, Google, Facebook, and YouTube. Just look for Barrett Insurance Agency.
Thank you, Mike, for our weekly chat. Good policies keeping us up on the insurance industry. Now, enjoy your day with Ethan, and we'll chat with you next week, okay?
Sounds wonderful, Jeff. Be well.
All right. Thank you very much. Good policies with Barrett Insurance Tuesday mornings at 8:35. We're 41 degrees now and 8:43.